The press characterized it as an act of war. Spring 1972. Thailand's capital. Bruce Lee, Chinese-American martial artist turned cultural phenomenon, had landed in Bangkok, carrying an audacious proposal that read more like a threat than an invitation. He planned to enter the city's most prestigious Muay Thai training facility and issue a challenge that defied reason. Not against their best fighter, not against a selection of champions, but against every single person training there. 65 men who'd consecrated their entire existence to mastering the art of 8 limbs, Southeast Asia's most devastating striking discipline. The statement couldn't have been clearer. Kung Fu was arriving in Thailand, and it wasn't asking permission. Friction between Chinese and Thai martial traditions had been escalating for years. Thailand regarded Muay Thai as sacred inheritance, a combat methodology honed across centuries, validated in the world's most savage competitions. The notion that Kung Fu, with its forms and philosophical meditations, could contest Muay Thai's dominance struck Thais as offensive. Worse, it registered as assault on national identity itself. When Bruce Lee's challenge circulated through underground networks 3 weeks prior, Bangkok's fighting community responded with unified fury. Let this Chinese cinema star come. Let him discover what happens when choreography collides with authentic violence. Bangkok's March heat was oppressive beyond description, the kind that transformed breathing into drinking hot vapor, that made atmosphere feel like something you wore as a second skin. In a facility on the city's outskirts, far from tourist zones where foreigners paid to witness sanitized Muay Thai performances, 65 fighters trained under conditions that would shatter most people within days. Corrugated steel roofing converted the interior into a furnace, concrete flooring stained by decades of sweat and blood, heavy bags suspended from humidity-rusted chains, the perpetual percussion of shins striking pads, elbows slicing air, knees hammering into held targets. The aroma of liniment and tiger balm mingling with perspiration. This was where genuine Muay Thai existed. This was where legends were manufactured. Bruce Lee positioned himself at the entrance, observing the organized brutality within. 31 years old, lean and exact. His physique a weapon forged through thousands of hours of calculated conditioning. He wore simple black shorts, no shirt, no footwear. His hands hung loose beside him, relaxed, yet anyone versed in combat could detect the compressed readiness in every contour of his stance. He'd flown from Hong Kong 48 hours earlier, spending those 2 days adjusting to Bangkok's suffocating heat, navigating the city, studying Thai fighters in other facilities, preparing his body and consciousness for what was approaching. The facility's head instructor was Arjun Sampong, a mythical figure in Muay Thai circles. 53 years old, constructed like a battle-scarred statue, his frame carried the cumulative damage of 200 professional bouts across 20 years. His record remained unblemished, not a single defeat. His reputation rested on straightforward philosophy. Muay Thai represented the most effective striking system ever engineered by human civilization. Anyone claiming otherwise was either ignorant or dishonest. Sampong had begun training at age 6 in a northern Thailand camp. His first professional match occurred at 13. He knocked out an older opponent. By 20, he was considered among the nation's elite fighters. By 25, he was undefeated and feared. By 30, he'd retired from competition and transitioned to instruction. By 50, he'd produced more champions than any other trainer in Bangkok. His gym was the gym, the place where the finest trained and tested themselves. When whispers began spreading that Bruce Lee, this Chinese-American film personality who claimed to have developed a superior fighting methodology called Jeet Kune Do, was planning to arrive in Bangkok and demonstrate that Kung Fu could defeat Muay Thai, Sampong's response was immediate and brutal in its clarity. Come then, face my entire facility. Not one fighter, not a champion, not even 10 men. The entire gym, 65 men. If your Kung Fu possesses such superiority, if Chinese martial arts truly function against legitimate fighters, prove it against 65 men who've dedicated their lives to the art of 8 limbs. Prove it before witnesses. Prove it where it matters. The challenge propagated through Bangkok's martial arts community, like contagion spreading through dense population. Within days, everyone knew the Chinese were coming to challenge Thai supremacy. Kung Fu was invading Muay Thai's sovereign territory. This transcended fighting. This was cultural warfare. Wagers were placed in every gym across the city. Arguments erupted in training halls. Some predicted Bruce would be killed, that 65 Thai fighters would literally beat him to death. Others anticipated he'd flee, that he'd arrive, assess what he faced, and depart before the first strike was thrown. A handful believed he might endure 10 minutes, perhaps 15 if fortunate, before being overwhelmed and obliterated. Not a single person in Bangkok's fighting community believed he could actually prevail. The mathematics alone rendered victory impossible. Sumpong approached Bruce with the unhurried confidence of someone who'd never encountered a problem. His fists, elbows, knees, and shins couldn't resolve. His nose had fractured so repeatedly, it had settled into permanent deviation, crooked and compressed. His knuckles were grotesquely swollen from decades of impact. His shins, when he demonstrated techniques on the heavy bag, produced sounds like baseball bats striking leather. His ears were cauliflowered from years of clinch work. Every portion of his body narrated a history of violence endured and inflicted. "Mr. Lee," Sumpong said in heavily accented English, "you actually came." "I came," Bruce said simply. His voice was calm, carrying no aggression, no apprehension, nothing but quiet confirmation. "You comprehend what you've agreed to. This isn't cinema. This isn't demonstration. This isn't sparring. 65 fighters, legitimate Muay Thai fighters, men who've trained since childhood. They'll advance in waves, 5 simultaneously. Each wave fights until they cannot continue, or until you cannot continue. When one wave concludes, the next begins immediately. No rest between waves, no breaks, no water, no timeouts. You fight until all 65 have faced you, or until you cannot fight anymore." Bruce's expression remained unchanged. His breathing stayed even. "I understand. If you exit the gym, you lose. If you cannot continue, you lose. If you surrender, you lose." Sumpong paused, his eyes searching Bruce's face for fear or uncertainty. He discovered neither. "This is your final opportunity to withdraw. No one will judge you. This challenge was foolish from conception. You're one man against 65. Walk away now. Preserve your health. Preserve your reputation." "Mathematics don't account for understanding," Bruce said quietly. "Your fighters are well trained. I can observe that. But they're predictable. They think identically because they learned from the same methodology. Once I comprehend that system, I comprehend all of them." Sumpong's jaw tightened. "Then let us commence. Let us determine if your understanding can survive against Thai power." The 65 fighters formed a perimeter around the gym's center, creating a circle approximately 30 feet in diameter. The space reeked of liniment and aged sweat. The floor was stained dark in sections. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows. Bruce walked to that circle's center and settled into a stance that appeared deceptively casual. His weight was centered. His hands were positioned to access multiple attack vectors. His breathing was controlled, and even around him, 65 men who'd grown up kicking banana trees until their shins became hard as iron, who'd fought in regional stadiums for prize money, who understood violence as a language they spoke more fluently than words, watched and waited. Some smiled, some appeared skeptical. A few looked genuinely intrigued. Sumpong raised his hand. The gym fell silent. "First wave. Begin." 5 fighters stepped forward. They ranged from 145 pounds to 185 pounds, all wearing traditional Muay Thai shorts, all moving with that particular rhythm, born from years of training. They circulated around Bruce carefully, maintaining spacing so he couldn't address all of them by facing a single direction. Their strategy was transparent. Attack from multiple angles, overwhelm his defenses through numbers, land sufficient strikes to slow him down, finish him. The fighter directly ahead of Bruce launched a low kick, targeting his lead thigh. The classic Muay Thai leg kick engineered to destroy mobility. Bruce's shin rose to check the kick. Bone meeting bone with a sharp crack. He absorbed the impact without flinching. Simultaneously, the fighter to his left threw a right cross aimed at his temple. Bruce's head moved 3 inches, slipping the punch, and his back fist struck the fighter's jaw in the same motion. The man stumbled backward, disoriented. The fighter behind Bruce attempted a spinning back elbow, a devastating technique if it connected. Bruce dropped his level 6 inches, letting the elbow pass over his head, and swept the fighter's supporting leg. The man hit the concrete hard. The 4th fighter, launched a jumping knee aimed at Bruce's head. Bruce sidestepped, caught the fighter's leg mid-air, and delivered a palm strike to the chest that sent him flying backward into the fifth fighter. Both men crashed to the ground. 20 seconds had elapsed. 4 of the 5 fighters in the first wave were compromised. The remaining fighter charged forward with a clinch attempt. Bruce's hand shot up, breaking the grip before it could establish. His other hand struck the fighter's solar plexus with a punch that traveled less than 6 inches, but emptied the fighter's lungs completely. The man dropped to his knees, gasping. 28 seconds. The first wave was finished. The gym had gone completely silent. 60 fighters who'd been laughing moments ago were no longer laughing. They were staring at a small man standing in their gym's center, surrounded by 5 Muay Thai fighters who were either on the ground or struggling to breathe. Sampang's expression hadn't changed, but something had shifted in his eyes. He raised his hand again. Second wave. 5 more fighters stepped forward. These moved with increased caution. They maintained superior spacing, attacked with more patience, used feints to attempt drawing reactions. It didn't matter. Bruce moved through their attacks like smoke, discovering gaps that seemed too narrow to exist, striking from angles that shouldn't have been accessible. A low kick became an opportunity to counter, with a side kick that collapsed the kicking leg. A jab-cross combination became a chance to slip inside and strike 3 times before the combination finished. A clinch attempt became leverage to throw one fighter into another. Bruce wasn't fighting 5 people. He was fighting one organism with 5 components, and he was dismantling that organism with systematic precision. The second wave lasted 39 seconds. The third wave lasted 42 seconds. The fourth wave lasted 31 seconds. By the fifth wave, everyone in the gym understood what was transpiring. This wasn't fortune. This was systematic deconstruction of everything they believed about fighting. Bruce wasn't using kung fu in the traditional sense. He wasn't executing forms or choreographed sequences. He was reading their intentions before they moved, exploiting gaps in their timing, using their own momentum against them. The waves continued. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 25 fighters down. The gym floor was crowded with men holding ribs, rubbing jaws, nursing hyperextended knees, none seriously injured. Bruce's strikes were too controlled for that, but all of them were defeated, unable to continue. The precision was surgical. He was proving a point, not attempting to destroy. Sampang watched with an expression that had transformed from confidence to something approaching disbelief. His entire understanding of combat hierarchy was being challenged. Muay Thai was supposed to be superior, yet here was a man using principles that transcended style. The waves continued. 11th, 12th. Bruce was breathing harder now, sweat covering his body, small cuts on his forearms and shins from blocking strikes, his knuckles swelling from impact. But his movement remained economical, his strikes remained precise, and his eyes carried the absolute focus of someone operating in a state most fighters never reached. 40 fighters down. 50 fighters down. 55 fighters down. The 13th wave stepped forward. These were Sampang's finest students, men who'd won regional championships, who trained 6 hours daily, who knew Muay Thai as completely as anyone could know it. They attacked with everything they'd learned, every technique refined over years of practice. Bruce moved through them like water flowing around stones. A high kick was checked and countered with a side kick to the hip. A double jab cross was slipped and answered with a back fist hook combination. A clinch attempt was broken and turned into a sweep. A jumping knee was avoided and punished with a leg kick. An elbow strike was redirected and countered with a palm strike to the chest. 60 fighters down. 5 remained. Sampang stepped forward and raised his hand. Stop. The 5 remaining fighters froze, looking at their master with confusion and relief. Sampang walked to the gym center where Bruce stood, surrounded by 60 men in various states of defeat. The silence was absolute. Every person in that gym understood they'd just witnessed something that would be discussed for generations. "Mr. Lee," Sampang said quietly. His voice carried the weight of 30 years of certainty collapsing. "I have trained fighters my entire adult life. I started when I was 6 years old. I have been involved in Muay Thai for 47 years. I have seen champions. I have seen prodigies. I have never seen what I just saw." Bruce stood waiting, his breathing controlled despite nearly an hour of continuous combat. Sweat dripped from his body. Blood from small cuts mixed with the sweat. But he was standing, undefeated. "You were right," Sampang continued, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I was wrong. I believed Muay Thai was superior to all other arts. I believed our techniques, our training methods made us unbeatable. I believed that Chinese martial arts were inferior, that Kung Fu was performance rather than fighting." He turned to face his students. "But Mr. Lee has shown us something I should have understood years ago. The art doesn't make the fighter makes the art. A truly great fighter transcends style." He turned back to Bruce and bowed. A deep bow, the bow of a master acknowledging a truth he'd been blind to. Bruce returned the bow with equal depth. "How?" Sampang asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 65 fighters, the best in Bangkok. How did you do it?" Bruce looked around the gym at the exhausted, defeated men. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost gentle. "I didn't fight 65 people. I fought 5 people 13 times. And I didn't fight their techniques. I fought their training. You taught them all the same way. They all think the same way. Once I understood the pattern of how they were trained, I understood all of them." He paused, meeting Sampang's eyes. "Your students are excellent. Individually, many of them are extremely dangerous. But they're predictable because they all learned from the same system. Muay Thai is a great art, but any system becomes a limitation when the practitioner believes it's the only system." Sampang absorbed this in silence. Around them, 65 fighters listened to words that challenged everything they'd built their identities on. "Kung Fu didn't invade Thailand today," Bruce continued. "Understanding invaded. The understanding that fighting transcends style, that a great fighter adapts to whatever is in front of him rather than forcing his art onto every situation. That's not Chinese. That's not Thai. That's universal." He looked at the defeated fighters. "You are all skilled. You are all dangerous. But you've been taught to see fighting through the lens of Muay Thai only. Expand that lens. Study other arts, not to replace Muay Thai, but to understand where it fits in the larger picture of combat. The fighter who understands multiple systems will always have an advantage over the fighter who only understands one." The gym remained silent. The 65 fighters who'd entered that day believing they understood combat left understanding that their education had just begun. The newspapers would report it as an invasion. The martial arts community would debate it for decades. Some would claim it never happened. Others would insist they were there. But everyone who actually witnessed what occurred in that Bangkok gym on that March day in 1972 left with the same knowledge. They had seen a barrier broken, a boundary crossed, a demonstration of fighting ability that existed beyond national identity or traditional style. Bruce Lee walked out of the gym the same way he'd entered, quietly, without ceremony. His body marked with the evidence of combat, small cuts and swelling and bruises, but walking, moving, undefeated. Behind him, Sampang stood in the center of his gym, surrounded by his defeated students, holding a truth he would carry for the rest of his life. Kung Fu hadn't invaded Thailand. Something far more dangerous had invaded. The idea that everything they thought they knew might be incomplete.